Hong Kong International Airport is our main base and the premier hub in southern China. Traffic growth and congested airspace make it crucial that the ATC system functions efficiently. This short video will introduce you to the key positions in ATC that you will interact with during departure and arrival. ATC in Hong Kong looks after about 100 airlines, generating 11 to 1,200 movements a day. A quarter of those are Cathay aircraft. At maximum capacity, we can see 34 movements per runway every hour. The airfield is like a heart, constantly pumping out and drawing in aircraft. To sustain this level of throughput, controllers need to blend arrivals and departures, some of which have specific needs. For example, long-haul arrivals can often be tight on fuel. Route restrictions into China can have a serious effect on movements. But controllers are not just concerned with what's happening in the air. About 150 aircraft a day require towing, either to maintenance, to a parking bay, or back to a stand. A tow can take from 30 to 90 minutes depending on routing and traffic. If you're stuck behind a tow, it's probably because the aircraft is needed at a gate so a flight can make its departure time. Mike O'Neill is a senior controller and trainer in Hong Kong ATC, and he will now talk you through the various positions and introduce you to some of the problems of controlling aircraft at Hong Kong. We start at clearance delivery.
Hi, welcome to Hong Kong Control Tower. My name is Mike O'Neill. I'm a current tower controller here, and I'd like to give you an explanation of the layout of the control tower, our control positions, and the different roles, and from an aircrew perspective, to be able to give you an insight to our workings of the different positions in the control tower. So we're now at the clearance delivery position. I'm standing at an electronic flight strip panel. The colorisation of our strips is based on a British system where we have yellow strips representing outbound flights, blue strips representing arrivals, and not on this panel we have white strips that represent the towing of aircraft around the airfield. So your first step arriving on this frequency is, it's common practice here, is everybody knows we're running delays on a regular basis. So basically the scheduling committee for this airport, it's an industry accepted thing. We actually exceed the capacity of the airport by a small margin. So moving back to our movement rates, if we're not doing 34 movements per hour, which is our maximum capacity, if we fall below that, clearly we go into delays. If there is weather en route, or if you're travelling into China, then we have a genuine unknown quantity. The delays, for instance, if your route has check for start on it, we have absolutely no idea what the delay will be. So as you call ready, if there is check for start, you call ready, we commence a coordination process. We call, and it may take 15 to 20 or 30 minutes to get an answer. So the answer to your question, what will be the delay, we have no idea. And this is always the practice when there is check for start on your route. So what we normally work with is a number of route restrictions. These are up the east coast to China. You can see there's several destinations here, and these are current runnings for China. Now these restrictions are passed to your operations centre. So sticking with clearance delivery, this is the panel. These are the aircraft that are ready to start. These are the aircraft that have their clearance. All our coordination needs to be accurately annotated on here. When you're ready for start, what position you are in the queue, and something that is not readily apparent to the person working this position is what's happening at the runway, what's happening at the holding point. So the structuring of these, you can see the restrictions here that the controller has posted. For a destination in China, there's a check for start. Currently between 0130 and 0600 into Taipei, we have +5 minutes. That will extend to probably +8 minutes later in the day. Pekan is +3. Victor 1 to Victor 5 is +3. So there's a significant amount of work trying to juggle these, this sequence to deliver them to the ground controllers so that they can get them out in the most efficient order. So we go on to the strip display itself. This is the outbound strip for Bohemia 216. ETD 0300, the aircraft type that we obviously use for Vortex. The SSR that was delivered with the SID. This aircraft more than likely got a PDC clearance. As that occurs, as the handshake happens on ACARs, a tick is indicated here and the clearance goes from a light colour to green. The aircraft is operating off 25 left. This is the current restriction for it, is Dragon 804 +7 minutes. Dragon 804 happens to be here at the hold. And Bohemia 216 is here. So 7 minutes apart, they're going to need to put 3 departures between Dragon 804 and 216. So already the ground controller would be working to structure this sequence to have 3 call signs between these 2 aeroplanes. The aircraft's off November 68. The aircraft was given pushback red. This is time injection, happens automatically. This is the time that the aircraft call ready to start. So call ready at 05 was started at time 48. So 43 minute delay. This is the outbound route. Arriving at the ground north position, I'd like to explain to you our ASM GCS. It's the Advanced Surface Guidance Movement System. It has a lacing of 20 plus sensors over the airfield, and through a process of triangulation taken from transponder information, we can observe aircraft both via secondary means on the airfield, and also from atop the control tower here we have a surface movement radar that is works independently of a transponder. So in the event that your transponder is not failing, we do have a primary backup. The primary is it's not an excellent return, it's not foolproof, and it is affected by weather. So if I can just talk you through the display here, you can see Airpeach 63 that has vacated the runway, has South 27 below it, is indicating the bay that it's going to. Airspring 8921 has just touched down. Air China 101 inbound to November 20. We have 2 tows underway from the north apron. This tow going into Victor 133, tow going into November 144. And then on the flip side of the airfield, you can see these gold targets. These are our outbounds. This is Cathay 536 making a left turn out Whiskey 2 onto Whiskey. So this is below the control tower. We're unable to see this aircraft. Basically there's a significant blind spot for us below here. So if you turn your transponder off, it's more than likely that the primary radar won't work. It's basically an unobserved area, and we will lose contact with you. So it's most important that you operate here with the transponder on. So you can see here there are a number of departures stacked up at the holding point. EVA has just commenced to roll. Now again, we're 2 minutes apart roughly between aircraft. So there's a second aircraft lining up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've got 14 minutes of traffic here to go. There's an aircraft about to cross the runway. So we have EVA 852. Doesn't matter what category EVA is, they're heavy or medium. With a Cathay following, you're obviously a heavy fleet. We can roll Cathay basically as EVA crosses the upwind threshold. So I can change this panel to mimic any position. So again, the same colorizations. These are the arrival aircraft, these are tows, departure restrictions, outbound aircraft, and these are the aircraft in the queue, all with departure clearance and good to go. This is a pending tow. Again, we're looking at ground north. Ground north jurisdiction comes down the spine of the terminal building, down the southern wing, and across here. So ground south owns all of this area, ground north owns here. The complicating factor here is the north concourse. There are 10 narrow body bays here, so you push any one of these bays and you'll create a delay for maybe up to 5 or 6 different aircraft. So the controller here is structuring a sequence of inbound. This aircraft landed at time 01. It's currently 04. It's Espring 8921. The aircraft is programmed to the north. There's nobody in the way at the moment from tow, so the aircraft should be cleared to the bay. So they're structuring all of this. In the background here we have what we call in ATC silent coordination. So this aircraft is from Delta 204, which is a remote bay at midfield, and it's going to South 23. So the aircraft currently has been issued to hold short of Bravo. We mark this on the strip, and that instruction is passed to an assistant in the tower, and they pass the restriction to the tug driver, and it's all done not on an ATC frequency. So you're not aware of this workload, and it is a significant workload. Quite often we do 20 to 25, maybe 28 tows in an hour. So there's a significant amount of work going on that it is not apparent to you. So you can see these aircraft, we can slide these aircraft in the bay. Both of these aircraft have been started. China Southern 3074 from Whiskey 65 has obviously just had an aircraft go behind it. So you can see the controller working these strips has to look a long way into the future to see if they push a certain aircraft, who are they going to delay. Obviously, it's just not efficient to push aircraft that are going to sit at the holding point, but they subsequently block an arriving aircraft. So we're constantly juggling tows, arrivals versus departures, and then any restrictions. Here's a restriction coming up. Many of these in busy times will have clearance expiries, so this aircraft would have to be elevated in priority. Between ground north and ground south, there is no dialogue. We have what we call segregated airspace. So as the aircraft is approaching ground south, the ground south controller can see how the aircraft has been cleared. It's a whiskey short of hotel for this aircraft. So the ground south controller already knows the clearance that has been provided to the aircraft, any restrictions on the aircraft, how he's going to program it into the future departure sequence. So at handoff, there's no point out, it's just the aircraft is shipped, because we have a very clear cut-off that the aircraft are restricted onto a taxiway hotel, so there can be no separation breakdown. So now we'll move to ground south. Ground south is the senior of these two controllers. The aircraft from ground south and ground north are being stitched together so that we get dissimilar SIDs. So here you can see Beacol, Lakes, Beacol, Ocean, both Victor 3s. So he will attempt to try and break these aircraft up, perhaps put the Lakes between them, and structure this sequence. These are the arriving aircraft that are coming into the southern jurisdiction. These are the pending departures. So at some point, especially with runway 25, if we use both of the parallel taxiways outbound and we have weather go through the terminal area and approach calls us and says stop departures, this will be for an unknown length of time. So basically the holding point is going to plug very quickly. So the ground controller has to do some defensive manoeuvre of either stop the starting sequence, perhaps delay aircraft over here, or to put them into basically dead airspace on the airfield, move them around on the parallel taxiways to at least allow an inbound route. So here we are at the AM South position, air movement south, the controller operating the southern runway. You can see the departure restrictions that are posted at all positions, so everybody in the tower knows what's going on. This is the runway designator, so these aircraft are committed to the runway. This is Bohemia 216, the aircraft that we were looking at previously had a restriction behind Dragonair. The aircraft has been cleared for takeoff. For some reason, Victor 1 to Victor 5 is +3, so these aircraft need to be 3 minutes apart. So this is particularly inefficient currently, simply because of deviations to the south. So Bohemia 216 off our display is already airborne. The next aircraft committed to the runway is Cathay 536. You can see the aircraft is taxiing on very slowly, perhaps he's been warned. These are the south runway capable aircraft that are stacked. So we have Cathay 3255. The EDA has just been updated here to time 29er. We have another freighter, EDA 29er. So this is not good for downstairs. In fact, they've got 3 aircraft, all EDA 29. So it'd be much better that they split them up. So we could offer a south landing. Because we have 3 minutes between departures, we can obviously slot an arrival in there. However, these are the pending aircraft. So you've seen one just been transferred to tower. These aircraft have been handed off. They've got the departure restriction, the taxi clearance route. These are the next aircraft that are coming in sequence. So they've got a BCOL departure here. I've just heard them shout out it's now departure +2. So they will try and slot this BCOL departure ahead in the sequence to split these two Victor 1 to Victor 5 that require 3 minutes. So it'll be much more efficient if we slide this aircraft in here. However, there's still a 2-minute penalty because he's following a medium, following a heavy, so we need 2-minute vortex off the runway. And the ground controller will be looking at these 3 aircraft to see if he can work out approach, and obviously it's in a safety sense if we can get an aircraft to land and use the runway once rather than do 2 runway operations, landing on this side, taxiing across the airfield and into the cargo ramp. This is a pink strip indicating a transit flight. Tele 83 is Super Puma. These are the details on the aircraft. So generally speaking, for runway crossings, we will launch the aircraft out of GFS, go to Cathay City on runway 25, and we fly a corridor here from south to north. The aircraft basically transing at 500 to 800 feet. We have a similar corridor west of the airfield when we operate runway 07, and we have 2 holding points, Point Whiskey and Point Echo. They're roughly a kilometre from the runway, so we bring the aircraft very close, identify an aircraft and cross them. Is a very, very standard procedure. The others you will see when you're operating on ground south is for departures to Silvermine. We'll depart in this direction. We will try and tag them so that they don't interfere with runway operations. So if this aircraft were to call now, we would put him right behind Cathay 536 in a turnout. As soon as he's in the turn, we will fire the next aircraft. So the impact on runway operations is quite minimal. And we try and point them out, especially in the runway 07 direction. As they're arriving, there's obviously a T-cache issue here. So the primary focus of this controller is to use this piece of bitumen as efficiently as possible using these departure restrictions, the weight category of the aircraft, heavy, medium, medium, medium. So obviously this sequence can be virtually runway length apart. So we're going to launch 3 aircraft in about a 70-second interval. Then he can look at whether he can land these aircraft on the south. So he's looking at some gap in here when the aircraft is roughly 10 minutes out. Here we can see Cathay 3255, he's approaching Tango Delta, so he's approximately 9 minutes from touchdown now. So quickly, if we go through this sequence, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, this is approximately where Cathay 3255 could go. So depending on what the departures are going to be in the next 10 to 15 minutes, if we have a significant queue here and we delay that queue, then we'll suspend landings on the south runway. For cargo arrivals here, because of the amount of towings, we quite often use taxiway November. You can see it's currently blocked. They're bringing an aircraft out of the maintenance stands. It'll be coming back onto the flight line. So this is out. So for aircraft that get down here, quite often crews ask us, why do we not put the arrivals on Bravo? Clearly, for aircraft going into the north ramp, we like to keep them on taxiway Alpha so that we have a segregated inbound and outbound. And more than often is the case now, taxiway Bravo is taken out of action because we have 11 stands here, approximately 20 parking bays in here when we consider all of the smaller bays for business jet, and similar, probably 10 parking bays here. So aircraft in and out of these areas use taxiway Bravo on a regular basis. So what can we see for arriving traffic in the air? When you check in on final, tell us you're 8 miles out, ILS and so on. Basically, it's not necessary information in lots and lots of ways. So this is Cathay 469. The label we're looking at, it's 1,000 feet with the trend line down, mean it's doing 200 feet per minute or greater. Airbus 330 and the weight category. This is the speed across the ground, not derived from your transponder. It's actually coming from a calculation done by the processor in the radar. You can see the aircraft is reduced to 140 knots. This is the track across the ground. I've tied 2 aircraft together, so the next aircraft in sequence is Cathay 648. Again, 1,800 feet descending, Airbus 330, 170 knots, so we've got 30 knots of closure now, and up to 3.8 miles apart. The next 2 is to tag jet a medium, so this has to be a 5-mile gap, and it's currently 6.5. So lots of information here, all shared for any controller looking at this. This is an aircraft on departure, Cathay 653, 270 across the ground, 5,300 climbing, 777-300, and current track is 178. So again, a great deal of information here that we can, it's not necessary for voice backup. I'll just very quickly blow out the range. So you can see aircraft in the terminal area. Again, we're runway 25, so you can see the racetrack flow of pattern for aircraft outbound. These are aircraft in China. We can actually quick look these aircraft. So we're not going to get labelled information on them. We're only going to get an SSR return, a level and a speed of the target across the ground. So it's a very, very limited display, but we do know that traffic is there. Attached to these labels is the letter D for departures in this case. C is the director, approach. So again, similar to the ASM GCS, because of the data tagging here, anybody looking at this display has a very good idea. It sees that approach is working these two aircraft. These are the aircraft currently being handled by director. As the handoff occurs, you'll see the information change. So if you want to get information to this aircraft, you know who to go to the director or the coordinator on approach. With departures, this aircraft here is with approach, so this is the downwind leg of the star. This aircraft is working with one of the upper sectors. And it's medevac flight, Learjet, operating through our airspace. It's currently flight level 215 descending. I would expect it's either for Guangzhou or for Shenzhen. So again, a significant amount of information here. One of the issues we have with aircraft getting airborne, quite often we have the Macau arrivals coming over the top of us. So a Macau label will merge with your label. Or you can see we can't detect any aircraft over the airfield platform currently. There's a defeat put in here on the radar, so we don't want to see aircraft below 400 feet or until they project beyond the end of the airfield platform. And in fact, it may even be higher than that at 800 feet. So if you come out of here and the label is not attached and we hand you off to a radar controller, it will double the RT loading just for a single exchange. So you can see here, this is a common problem that we face. This is Asia Express is now 4 miles off the end of the runway and grounding 150 knots. Got a Cathay or a Delta 330 airborne is long haul, so he'll probably start to ground at 170, 180 knots, and this will become a squeeze play until this aircraft accelerates. So he's already faster than the aircraft in front. He's 180 versus, well, they're now like types. But until that opening happens, we may be faced with a loss of separation or have to impose vertical on the following climb. So it's a common practice here that you will hear, we're continually asking the lead aircraft to accelerate. All Airbus 320s are not operated in the same manner, similar with 737s, the different operators. And as alluded to before, we have 100 plus airline operators into and out of Hong Kong with single company procedures that vary with others. You can see that this creates a lot of inefficiencies when we're trying to launch aeroplanes at minimum spacing, least amount of time, least delay on a regular basis. So I hope that just helps you to visualise what we're looking at when you're down final, how accurately we can measure the gaps, the speed that we can see, and spacing requirements, and this overall picture of traffic flow. So that's it from start to finish, the ATC. Hopefully this will give you a perspective from our point of view that we are working for you. The things that you see when you're approaching the holding point may appear illogical, don't make any sense, you're shuffled back, forwards. To get departure restrictions and to give you an idea of the machine that we're trying to match this most expeditious flow of the runway and usage of the runway to you is very, very complex and time consuming. So we're hoping that you, by having this understanding of what we do, and we are attempting the most efficient use of the runway, that we really are doing the very best for you, not as an individual flight, but for as seen as the aviation industry. So thank you very much.